Assalamu alaikum, dear students and viewers. Hope you will be all right. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shower his nectar of Iman to all of us. And may this month be blissful to us, to our family. Dear students, we are discussing the principles of management. I have discussed first principle of management, that is planning. And now we are discussing second principle of management, that is organization. I have divided it in 4 parts. In the first part, I have discussed what is organization, characteristics, principles, features, etc. And in second part, I have discussed formal, informal organization, its advantages, disadvantages, and delegation of authority. In today's lecture, we will discuss what centralization and decentralization of authority. In this chapter, what are the main points? That is, what is centralization of authority, its advantages, disadvantages, and features of centralization of authority. Then we have factors of determining centralization of authority and decentralization, it is advantages and disadvantages. First of all, dear students, we will discuss what is centralization of authority. Centralization of authority means systematic reservation of authority at central points in an organization. Hence, the majority of the decisions regarding the work are taken only at higher levels and not by those who actually perform the work. Companies with centralized structure concentrate their authority in upper levels of management. For example, McDonald's is a prime example of centralized management and standardization. The exact same number of pickles is put on each burger no matter wherever in the world you are. Same is the example with airlines. Do this too. You find the exact same brand of bottled water in airplanes in the same brand throughout the world wherever you go. So this was a brief explanation of this centralization of authority. Dear students, it has advantages as well as disadvantages. What are its advantages? The advantage of centralization of authority it has better and more timely decisions are taken in it. Number 2, it increases motivation among the subordinates and top management level. Number 3, it eases the burden of top management. And number 4, there is a less management firefighting in this centralization of authority. And number next, day-to-day problems are solving with sheer between this top management and subordinates. So these were the few points of advantages. Now, what are its disadvantages? The tendency to stifle innovation and creativity, making it hard for an organization to adjust to change. And number 2, it decreases job satisfaction. This is the second disadvantage of centralization of authority. And next point is it decreases organizational commitment in low-level employees. And in next disadvantage is there is a danger of losing a key decision makers. This is the biggest disadvantage in centralization of authority. So concept is clear. We have discussed centralization of authority and its advantages and disadvantages. So we have discussed this centralization of authority, it is advantages and disadvantages. Now, what are the features of centralization of authority? The first feature of centralization of authority, it has a top class management. Top management. This is the first feature of centralization of authority. Number 2, this is authority to make decision is in the hand of top management only, not lower level management or middle level management. Number 3, information flows from upper level to lower level in this centralization of authority. And next feature is there is a long longer time to make decisions in a in a in a very decent and collegial atmosphere. And next feature is there is a centralization is suitable for small organization. And next feature is it has a inflexible is nature. This centralization of authority is inflexible in nature. So these were the few features of centralization of authority. Now, what are the factors that determine the centralization of authority? The factors I have depicted here a diagram. You can zoom your camera. You can see this diagram, this figure, which I have depicted here. These are the factors which determine the centralization of authority. Number first is nature of organization. Number two, size of organization. Number three, nature of task. And number four, delegation of this ability. And number next, employees efficiency. So these are the five main factors which determine the centralization of authority. So what is the nature of organization? When the organization is generally a sole proprietorship or partnership entity with the number of employees to be managed, it can have a centralized system. This is the first factor of this centralization of authority. Number two, size of organization. The organization which are small in size and operating on small scale can efficiently managed by the top management, hence following a centralized system. So this way, first of all, I have discussed nature of organization and I have discussed size of organization. Now I will discuss this nature of task. The organization engaged in business operations which does not require much expertise or specialization can be managed through centralization. So this is the another factor which determines the centralization of authority. Number next point is that is delegation of ability. What is delegation of ability? So the capability of the management to delegate the responsibilities to subordinate while keeping the organization in their hand is another factor determining in organizational structure. And last is employees efficiency. If the employees lack skills and efficiency to take up the responsibility and accountability of the work to be performed, the management will go for centralization of the organization. So these were the five main factors which determine the centralization of authority. I will again repeat here, that is number one is nature of organization, number two is size of organization, number three is nature of task, number four delegation of ability, and number five employees efficiency. So these were the five main factors determining the centralization of authority. So now we will discuss what is decentralization of authority, its advantages and disadvantages. What is decentralization of authority? Decentralization is an extended form of delegation. It means to delegate authority to all levels of management for taking decisions. Under this centralization, the number of centers for taking decision increases because manager belonging to middle and lower level have authority to take decisions. According to Searle, everything that goes to increase the importance of subordinates' role is in the organization is the decentralization. So this was a brief concept about decentralization. Now, what are its advantages and disadvantages? Advantages. Asha. Number one, first advantage is this facilities diversification. Facilities diversification. This is the first advantage of decentralization of authority. Under this advantage, decentralization, the diversification of product activates the market facilities and products. Number two is executive or number two is executive. Number two is executive or subordinate development. This is the second advantage of decentralization of authority. Under decentralization, executive in the organization will get the opportunity to develop their talent by taking initiative positions. Number three point is number three, it promotes motivation. This is the third advantage of decentralization of authority. Under decentralization, it increases the morale of employees as they are involved in decision making process. Number four advantage is better control and supervision. Number four is better control and supervision. So, better control and supervision. Decentralization ensures effective control and supervision as the subordinates of the lowest level are involved in decision making. So, first point was facilities diversification. Number two, executive or subordinate development. Number three, it promotes motivation. And number four, better control and supervision. So these were the few points of advantages of decentralization of authority. Now, what are the disadvantages of decentralization of authority? Under decentralization, it is not possible to follow uniform policies and centralized procedure. Each manager will not work and frame policies according to his talent will never be common. This is the first disadvantage of this decentralization of authority. Number two, decentralization of authority creates problem of coordination as authority lies in all level of an organization. Number third, it becomes useless where there are no qualified and component personnel of talented employees. So these were the three main points of this disadvantages of decentralization. So dear students, this was a brief description about centralization of authority, decentralization of authority. So inshallah, in the next chapter, in the next lecture, we will discuss the staffing in an organization, what is the role of, what is the procedure of staffing in the organization. And I hope you will pick up this lecture very nicely. And till the next lecture, Khuda Hafiz, and so kind of you.